Good morning. Nice to be back with all of you. It was a joy to be with you several months ago. And I'm April Dinwoodie. I'm a racial equity and adoption rights activist. I was adopted into this community as a baby, into the Westerly community and this adjacent communities. And I now split my time between New York City and Westerly. Larry, you said something about the woodpecker that was pounding into the side of your house, and you used the word persistent. And I think that is a word that connects all of the founding members of ARC, is persistence. And when asked about this opportunity to come and be with you again, I was really going back in time to sort of put the pieces together. And it's a real joy to be able to do that and then to share it with all of you. So yes, we'll be joined by several of our other founding members, Anne Pearce, Tim Flanagan, Madeline Labriola, Kevin Lowther, who you heard play, Leslie Dunn again, and myself. We're gonna all take a few pieces. And for me, it all began when I was driving through downtown Westerly in late May, early June of 2020. Going to a socially distant gathering with a couple of friends. And I drove through downtown and I had to pull my car over because there were protesters on the post office steps in the triangle there in Westerly, protesting all the injustices for Black persons in this country, in the world. And I had to pull over because I couldn't see because I was crying. Because as a Black, biracial, transracially adopted person in a majority white town, I didn't expect anyone from our town to be gathered together with this type of purpose. So once I got myself together, I continued on to where I was going to go. And the next week I joined the folks in the triangle and on the post office steps. It wasn't long before a few of us started to talk and determine that it's important to be in active protest with our voices and our signs and all of the things to express ourselves and our hurt and our anger and our pain, but that if we wanted anything to change, we needed to do something more than that. So a handful of us started to get together on Zoom. This was probably about August, September of 2020. It didn't take long. As I looked back, it didn't take long for us to say, okay, we can do this, but we have to do something over here too. And then by February-ish, I'm not going to get the timeline exactly right, but February 2021, we had a cohort of people, including everyone here that is joining from Westerly ARC, that started to talk and started to figure out what we needed to do beyond showing up every Sunday. And that really turned into something very special and beautiful, because it wasn't without our own internal work and our own understanding of our individual identities and how we were showing up to that protest space, and how then we would show up to a space that was more organized and that would be putting goals together. It wasn't without doing that interpersonal work and understanding each other and our why. We had to do that first before we could do anything else to bring anybody in. We can't ask people to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. So we got to know one another, and slowly but surely a smaller and smaller group started to create a structure. And that structure includes some things that Anne Pearce will be going into in more detail, but the basic elements are showing up together for our sort of Sunday sermon and our community time on Sunday mornings from 11 to 1, and then a very, very structured way in which we wanted to engage the community more broadly. So it started from the pain and the anger and the confusion and the chaos surrounding the torture and the murders of Black bodies, and it has turned into something very active and very structured that we are all quite proud of. So Anne is going to talk a little bit about the structure and how we came up with some foundational elements so that we could continue this work and make an impact in our community, in our adjacent communities as well. So Anne.
All right. Hello, good morning. Thank you also for inviting us here. It's all great to see all of you. So I'm a Connecticut girl and moved to Westerly my family and I moved to Westerly about 18 years ago. And I was one of those first people on the post office steps when April drove by and saw all of us protesting. So that's when it began for me. So how did we settle on a format? My background is in engineering and research and development, and I've had success using a framework or a format called an OGSM. So an OGSM is basically a strategic planning tool to help organizations define their long-term goals and set actionable strategies to achieve them. The acronym OGSM stands for Objective, Goals, Strategies, and Measures. And although it's only a one-page format, it can be a long process to create and to get agreement on. So I knew ARC was serious about this work when no one objected when I suggested we do an OGSM. So the OGSM helped structure our goals and our measures of success. And after about a month of discussions, we set our overall goal to create a diverse and interdisciplinary coalition to embrace, educate, and empower our community to actively address racism and inequality and advance multiculturalism, and to lead all our work with love. From this initial work, it became clear we needed to build committees to lead and sort out the needed work to be done. So we created 5 committees: communications and education, a website design and management, a volunteer committee, social media events, and an advocacy committee, each of them led by a member of the ARC steering team. So I lead the communications and education committee. And a few of our measures of success include our weekly newsletter. We've written several position papers, articles, op-eds. We wrote an op-ed in opposition to H 6070, which was Rhode Island's resolution to teaching divisive concepts. We've written letters of support for our teachers and administration. We wrote letters of support for our school equity audit, which the school committee has approved. We've created community book reading forums in partnership with the Westerly Library. And we also donate to those in the community who need a helping hand. So these are all some of the important work we've done on the Education and Communications Committee, and we're making good progress. But yet there is always so much more work to be done. You always feel like you're not doing enough to try to get another generation of people to find a way to get in, to make progress, to make change. So the good is there, the love is there, but how do you make it more real and more visible? These are some of the challenges I have. And how do you get people to go from A to B and to C? The challenge is it's an ongoing struggle, and it's going to take longer when you're trying to change the hearts and minds of people. It's a bit of a revolutionary effect, and we have to be consistent and persistent. So what keeps me going? Probably the members of ARC. We become a coalition of unity, a circle of trust, and a family. And we keep trying to find ways to show up for one another so we can work together toward the future we deserve. And that faith that we create a larger sense of community would not exist if it didn't exist within ARC itself. So thank you for inviting us this morning to your Sunday service. And thank you for all the work you do to create a beloved community. And I'll introduce Tim Flanagan, who leads our website design and management committee. Tim?
Good morning, everyone. I second what Madeline said. It is a joy to be here. Thank you for having us. And so I got involved in ARC a little bit later than the rest of the steering committee here, around June of 2021, when I started attending the weekly protests. It wasn't long before I found many opportunities to help out, and was drawn in by some of the more veteran folks here who are really good at building you up, making you feel confident and saying you can do this. And before I knew it, I was speaking at school committee meetings, which I'd never done before, and participating in many ways. So as Anne said, that's been one of the the joys and successes, is finding this community. It's the community, the ARC community, that really keeps me going, keeps me invested, because I think, as we all know, this work can be very heavy and it can be very challenging. But one of the key moments, our focus of each week is that Sunday protest, which is really a great way to just kind of have that fellowship and be together. So I've been involved more recently in building the website. and so that's been a great success. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback on that, and I've had a lot of help. I didn't do it myself. I was a teacher for 35 years and did a lot of work in technology with my teaching. So kind of enjoy doing that stuff. So I found things that I like to do in a way that I could help. So our website is up and going. And then just this weekend, if any of you are on our mailing list, maybe you notice we have a new newsletter format. So we've been have had a really valuable resource in this newsletter that's been going out every week. Madeline and Anne have been a huge force in composing and researching that newsletter, as have many others. So I stepped in to help with trying to develop a format for it that might be more readable, and based on the feedback from the whole committee and a lot of support, we were able to put together this. And one of the biggest inspirations was when we got we signed up for the UUC newsletter and saw your newsletter, and we were very inspired by it. So the work that you're doing is inspiring us as well. And so our first edition was out this weekend. We're certainly going to make improvements, but we're off to a good start. So thank you for that inspiration. And I think, I echo what Anne said, and some of the challenges are keeping people involved. Like, we can have these great communication tools, but is it, it might look nice and have a lot of great information, but if nobody's reading it or going to the website, then how valuable is it? So we're always looking for ways to increase our mailing list and get more people involved. So I'm going to move on now in the interest of time to Madeline, is going to tell us more about our weekly programming at the Sunday protests.
Good morning, everybody. I'm outside, so a plane went over, and I said woodpeckers are one thing, planes are another. So hopefully I don't get drowned out, but it's beautiful outside today, so I hope you get out. Actually, I am a member of Westerly Area Peace and Justice, which is a small group based at the Christ Church, Episcopal Church. And I joined that when I got here from New York about 7 years ago. And we decided when George Floyd died that we would, was killed, and that we would do something. And we went out on the post office steps in the center of town for probably one of the first protests in town. Like 250 people showed up. We were totally floored by that. And then it, as April said, it kind of evolved and it kept going, and more people saw it and joined. And then we evolved into, at that moment, what we called the Good Trouble Coalition for a while. But then we had to focus on Westerly. And I think that helped, because if you spread yourself to think, Stonington people were there, other people, which is all important, but by having a core group in Westerly, I think has helped us to focus more on how we can change things in our community. I have been the person who tries to get people to volunteer to come on Sunday and to have a program, because we felt like standing there for 2 hours is one thing, but if we could educate at the same time, that would be a critical part of our program, a part of our process. So little by little, we encourage people. I think Tim said it best. We try to make people feel comfortable and confident. And you can do this. Come and sing for us, or come and tell us your story, or maybe read a poem, or we have Children's Day and we invite the children and have crafts. And it's become a sense of community and relationship, which I think is the only way you can build a better society, is to have relationships with people. So if any of you on this program have anything you'd like to offer us on a Sunday morning, from your own story to something you've read, or even a talent you have. We had a friend do the hula, for instance, which is really lovely. We tried to celebrate the many different things, Asian American month, LGBTQ month, on and on, to try to find ways to connect this issue of equity and equality. So I'm inviting all of you to come and let us know if you would like to speak, or just, I know you have your program at the same time, so it is hard, but whenever you can, please join us and help us spread the good news, the good word. And the challenge for me at the beginning was learning how much I didn't know, how much I needed to learn, and how all these years I thought I knew what I was doing, but thanks to having this wonderful steering committee made up of multi-age, I'm the oldest one, and Leslie's the youngest one, multiracial, multicultural group. And as you can see, as you'll learn, everyone brings a special talent to the group. Anne's researching, I'm kind of the, I don't know what I am, the anyway, sometimes we have dinner at my house and I cook, so maybe that's what I do. But anyway, everybody brings something to the group, which I think is really important. But what keeps me going is the relationships I've made with every one of the people you see on the steering committee, plus almost 200 people on our email list. And I try to keep that up to date and keep people informed. So it's been a work in progress, and I'm very proud of our group and what we've accomplished so far. But as you know, there's a lot more to do. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers as we move forward, one step at a time. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to the wonderful Leslie Dunn, who you heard from already, but she's going to tell a little bit of her story. And thank you all very, very much for all you do and for inviting us. Leslie.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. This is such an opportunity, and I feel so privileged to have a group embrace us like this. And like Madeline said, this is one of those things where all of the people who are part of the steering committee and all the people who are adjacent to us, really, that's why we've continued to be as successful as we are, and we've gotten to where we are now. So my story, my journey to getting here, I actually happened to have a Sunday off from work, which was a really nice treat. And I was out with my family, and they just said we were going downtown. There was a protest happening in response to George Floyd's murder. And to me, having grown up in Westerly since I was a kid, and there weren't a lot of people who looked like me around, I kind of expected some small thing that was, there would probably be like some singing or some different things going on, and I just didn't have a high expectation of it. But I was like, okay, I'll go, I'll see what it's all about. And for the first time, I truly felt like this community was waking up, and there was people recognizing the inequalities that existed in our community. And I was taken aback to see that many people standing on the post office steps with signs and being so welcoming and engaging in conversation. So I made it a regular thing to attend on Sundays. And then I had the honor of meeting up with people like April and Madeline, Kevin, Tim, and Anne, and being a part of this group that would form the coalition and really create a structure around us having the programming and having partnerships and having a plan for moving forward, and giving people the tools to be able to speak at town council meetings, school committee meetings, and even just in spaces where maybe they weren't comfortable before, to have some of the tough conversations, just being a part of that group to start giving people those tools. So in doing so, as we move forward in that, I, as Anne had mentioned, I'm a part of the events and social media committee. So it was really important to, as we started moving forward, creating the partnerships with key stakeholders within the community. So we partnered with the library to do some community conversations, which were not only good for us to have some of those tough conversations, but to invite more people into the conversation in a format that was a little bit easier. Not everybody's ready to come stand outside at the post office steps and hold a sign or be vocal, but to have those spaces where they feel like they can still be a part of the conversation and learn was so important. We've partnered with United Theater to have a Black Voices film series, which that's just been, I think even for me, there's been some great movies that I haven't had an opportunity to see yet that I got a chance to see. And again, another space to open up conversation for people who have questions, or like Madeline said, coming into this work, even as a Black woman, there are things you don't know what you don't know. So this has given such a place to ask those questions without feeling judgment and knowing that you're going to walk out educated and have something more. So we've done those types of partnerships. We've also invited the library down when we've had Children's Day. They've been providing the books for us, some of the crafts for us, and then we've also done our best to support their programming in their teen and youth spaces to invite our young people that come with us and for some of us to show up there, because not only do we want the support, but we want to make sure we're out there in the community and showing up. And also out of that, a great success that I've also seen is I decided to run for Westerly School Committee this year. And the big reason why I've been able to do that is because there is an amazing crew of people who were on the steering committee and who are part of the Westerly ARC family that really encouraged me and gave me the strength and the tools and the knowledge to be able to do something like that. And I'm very honest to say that if I wasn't a part of Westerly ARC, I don't think I would have put myself into that space. Because the unfortunate thing is for a lot of young people in the community, it's a little bit easier to just leave than to put yourself out there and be a part of the solution. So I'm super grateful for all of them, for all that they've given me to be able to get there. And I mark that off as, while it's a challenge to put yourself out there and to open up yourself to both the positives, but you also open yourself up to some of the negative connotation that comes with that. A huge part of the success is having a loving community that's willing to do the work with you and get you there. So it's a super incredible group to be a part of. And I'm just so thankful that we've gone from just being downtown in the post office every Sunday to really being an integral part of the community and continuing to grow and be a part of platforms like this. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kevin, who's going to share a little bit of the advocacy work that also came out of our OGSM to really involve ourselves in community politics.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And I always love to hear you talk about this community and like that passion. And so, you know, we've been now campaigning, I guess, for about the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, as Leslie is running for a school committee and I'm running for town council. And it seems like it's been a really, really interesting journey to get us to where we are today. I started in the summer of 2020. I'm a musician. As many of you all know, it's my day job. 2020, I essentially lost my livelihood as COVID ravaged the country, and so I was spending a lot of time doing protests outside of Westerly, and Providence and New York, and traveling and organizing. And then I had this really similar experience to both April and Leslie when I just happened to be driving through town and I saw a protest. I was like, I cannot believe this is happening in Westerly. And I grew up here. I went to high school in Westerly, left for a while, came back, and I just I couldn't believe that the energy that was around racial justice at the time. And so yeah, it was absolutely amazing for me to find kindred spirits, like-minded people, a community that I never knew that I had. And since that summer, we've been trying to define some of our goals through this OGSM, and one of the major things that we realized was that there was a serious lack of representation of people of color in boards and commissions and committees at the town level, and we just realized we just didn't know the route. We just didn't know the route in. So when we were doing a lot of education of town officials, of town council members, school committee members, law enforcement, they realized that, they needed to actually extend a hand a little bit and let us know what positions were available, how we could apply. Through that work, ended up applying for the town planning board and was appointed last March. So since that time, I've been able to be a part of that board, approve some major land developments that would give Westerly some more housing stock, with affordable housing being a percentage of that. Really getting to learn how the intricacies of city planning and housing and economic development are going to affect Westerly and what we can do as citizen members of those boards. We also understood that we didn't really have a way as people of color, as Black people, as a multicultural community, you know, we saw the government as, in a way, just like not for us. You know, we had really no way to connect to it. You know, there were lots of people who have, you know, relationships, personal relationships with town council members. You know, they're their cousins, their, you know, immediate family. You know, there's never been a person of color, to our knowledge, elected to a public office in Westerly's 350-year history. So we just weren't connected to it. We have a big Asian community that is like decided that this is not for them, and they are nowhere near town hall. We have a big Native community in this town that has not been engaged. You know, we have a growing Hispanic community that hasn't been engaged. It's you know, the government as it stands, it just doesn't look like it's for those kinds of people. So we decided that we needed the multicultural committee to help tie all those people closer to the community. And we worked really hard with the council over the last 2 years, essentially, to make it happen. We got it passed. We got that ordinance revised, and they have appointed some members to that committee, but not enough for a quorum so they could have their first meeting yet. And so, you know, while it was a success on some level, it's still a challenge to make it a priority in the town for the town leadership. So even the town councilor that's leading the effort has decided that it's not a priority for her. So she's kicked the can down the road many, many times on appointing all the members that we need. So just making people understand that, or making leadership understand that these issues are central to everybody, and they will make the whole town better if more people are engaged. We will be able to pass school bonds. We'll be able to do more things that benefit the community. And I guess, yes, and then the last leg of the advocacy was, or should I say the last, you know, obviously being in school committee meetings and kind of being that buffer against some of the wild accusations that were coming out against teachers, some against students, just being able to be the people in the community that could stand up for the loving embrace of our education system, our educators, was very important part of our advocacy. And then I'll say the last thing was to actually get elected officials. So just to mention myself and Leslie's campaign, we kicked it off a couple weeks ago. We are both endorsed by the Democratic Party of Westerly, which has, again, never happened before. They've never endorsed candidates of color. We're experiencing some growing pains with as they try to accept us in, but I think we can get a lot done in this community, and it is really heartening to see that we're pushing the ball forward like that. So I'm gonna take up all your time. I appreciate so much having us here today.
And just to kind of bring it all back around, you know, our 3 pillars to educate, embrace, and empower come together through our structural work, but really the work is relational. It's about getting to know each other. It's about doing our interpersonal work to understand how to bring all of our passions to life. The challenges are slow-moving governments locally, nationally, regionally, that aren't always doing their interpersonal work, that we meet, staying well, staying healthy, staying focused, staying clear-headed. And the evidence of things working really couldn't be more manifested in both Leslie and Kevin running for office. And our measures of success really have to be layered. To Kevin's point, the first endorsed candidates, that's a win. The multicultural committee, even if it's not fully activated, it's a win. And so we take all of that with us as we go. Part of what keeps me going is spaces like this, and knowing that I don't know all of you, but knowing you're interested, knowing your energy is coming to us, keeps me keeps me going, keeps me focused, keeps me feeling loved and seen and heard. So I can't thank you enough, my fellow ARC steering committee members. It's a joy to be in this work with you, and we hope to be back with more updates, and we hope to see you all, continue to see you all at the post office. It's been great to have you with us. Thank you.
I'm trying to get the view back. Okay, here we go. Because I need to be able to see everybody. I think. Go away. Be patient. There we are. Okay, thank you so much to all of the folks from ARC who have joined us. And the recording could stop now if it didn't already. And I wanted to give a quick thank you also